stop. Do you know what really happens after we die? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Hi there, I'm Danny. I'm online and I'm trapped behind your screen. I love it in here and I love having access to your search history. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal investigations, which is basically a combination of criminal justice, law, and forensic science all mashed together. Forensic science and the fields of science within it are something that I've always been super passionate about. So I've decided to make this series for people like me who love all things gross and macabre, but from a scientific perspective. Now I'm going to do all of my good housekeeping, disclaimers, all that good stuff, all that fun jazz. For legal purposes, the information presented in this video should not be taken as legal or medical advice, and it does not equate to a formal education. It is for entertainment purposes only. All rights sources are credited to their respective owners, and I list them in the description. Warning: this video contains potentially graphic or disturbing content. Some of the topics I will be talking about in this video could be triggering or upsetting for viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. And I don't think I usually say this one, but I'm gonna say it this time because I'm sick of editing it in. Copyright disclaimer: under section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Great effort is made to ensure all the materials in Danny's online videos fall within the guidelines of fair use. No copyright infringement intended. If you are or represent a copyright owner of any material accidentally used in this video and have an issue with its use, please contact me. Thank you. Thank you. Alright besties, let's get into it. Grab your gloves, hazard suits, and N95s for this week because we are diving into death in the postmortem interval, baby. This is some really nasty stuff, so here's your warning that today's going to be very juicy, smelly, and just nasty overall. I'm not going to be showing any graphic imagery because that takes a lot of mental preparation to see, and it's also against the guidelines. So I wouldn't be doing that. I'm a visual learner, so I understand why you would want to see the things I'm going to be talking about in this episode, but I want you to understand that if you do go looking for these things on the internet, you need to be safe, and you need to understand that if the images are of real people and not special effects makeup, that they're just that. They're real people. Morbid curiosity and wanting to learn is one thing, but treating death, dying, and tragedy as entertainment and not approaching the subject with respect and empathy is wrong. I understand that my show here is primarily for entertainment and we get silly and goofy and a little bit stupid. And I am a bit of an idiot while discussing some of these topics, and I edit it to be funny or whatever at points. But I want to make it clear that my focus is on educating you in a fun way about topics that I know a lot of people are interested in but are not sure how to get detailed information on that isn't super graphic and upsetting. There are many great sources out there, but even academic texts like the one that I use to write this have really intense gory imagery in them that most people aren't desensitized to, and they shouldn't be, but you know, unrestricted access to the internet, I'm a part of that generation, I get it. Also, a majority of the best sources out there are ones that you have to pay for, or you can only get access to them in college or through a university, which you also have to pay for a lot. So the point is, my goal here is to provide you with genuinely educational content that doesn't use victim stories as entertainment, or I want it to be entertaining for you, but also educational. You know? That's my goal. Back to what you came for. How do we define death? Until the 1960s, death was defined as the cessation of circulation and respiration. In 1968, the definition was altered to the cessation of life, the ceasing to exist, defined by physicians as the total stoppage of the circulation of the blood, and a cessation of vital functions consequent thereon, such as respiration, pulsation, etc. Basically, your body ceasing to work. In recent times, though, the definition of death has been challenged by two medical advances. One, advanced resuscitation techniques such as CPR or electric shock, those things that you find in the hallways of basically any public place. Those, I forget what they're called, the heart shock machines, stuff like that, which are capable of effectively reviving many people who are classified as clinically dead. 2. Advanced life-sustaining equipment capable of maintaining blood pressure, circulation, and respiration in individuals with severe brain injury, also known as life support. These methods of reviving people considered clinically dead and life support are fairly new technology that have changed our understanding and the definition of what death is. The definition of death was revisited and split into cessation and irreversible cessation because of these medical advances. Because cessation, you can technically die, according to these old definitions, but it can be reversed. It's a bit confusing. The reversibility of the death process depends on the capability of tissues and the body to recover from the harm done from the point of the initiation of the death process to the beginning of the effective resuscitation process. So basically, the point where you functions ceased to happen, important functions ceased to happen, the beginning of the resuscitation process. That's how long you have to reverse death.
To all of them.
How long is the period between the death process starting and when it becomes irreversible? It depends on so many factors, but the general time limit is about 15 minutes. After about 15 minutes, you're going to be facing irreversible brain death, at least if you're not resuscitated. Basically, in most situations, it's going to be around 15 minutes. I mentioned brain death. What is brain death? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. Your brain dies first before your body. Brain death is defined by 4 factors. Number 1, unreceptivity and unresponsive to any and all stimuli. 2, no movement or spontaneous respiration. 3, no reflexes, non-reactive pupils, and a lack of cranial nerve reflexes, like moving your eyes, like when they do that. 4, isoelectric electroencephalogram, EEG, which is the complete loss of electrical activity within the brain. Now that you have a basic understanding of death itself, let's talk about postmortem changes, or what happens afterwards. The gooey stuff. Yuck. Following death, a lot of physical and chemical changes occur, which ultimately lead to the dissolution of all soft tissues, which is, I think, a fancy word for dissolving. Dispersing. These changes are sequential and can be utilized in the determination of time of death, which I'm going to refer to as TOD in some parts. So if I say TOD, I mean time of death. Also, if I say PMI, I'm referring to postmortem interval. So I'll get into that more, but I'm just beforehand, in case I do say it. There are many factors that impact how fast or how slow this process moves, like what the temperature of the environment the person is in, if they're indoors, if they're outdoors, the body build, the state of the health of the person. There are so many things, like infinite possibilities. The time of death cannot be pinpointed exactly based on examining postmortem changes, but it can be estimated within a variable time frame. The longer the interval since death, though, the wider the estimated range is going to be. You have less stuff to work with. So I feel like that makes sense. Our 3 big categories for postmortem changes are algor mortis, livor mortis, and rigor mortis. Rigor mortis?
Who's Morris?
Yeah, you're probably familiar with these terms. Almost everyone knows about them. But what happens during each? Let's start off with algor mortis. Algor mortis is postmortem cooling. Simply put, it is the body temperature declining after death. Under average conditions, the body cools at a rate of 2 degrees Fahrenheit to 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit per hour during the first hours, and slowly thereafter, with an average loss of 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees Fahrenheit during the first 12 hours, and 1 degree Fahrenheit for the next 12 to 18 hours. The skin is not really useful for determining the body temperature postmortem since it's exposed to the environment and will cool You're going to want to measure the temperature of the inner core of the body because the decline is slower and much more regular. So where is this inner core you speak of? Well, you're going to be pleased to know. The most common spot that is used is 8 inches of the booty. Some people prefer to use the liver or the brain, but 8 inches deep up your bum is going to be the most common. It's just more convenient. The hole is already there. Some external factors that can affect the rate of cooling are clothing, whether the body is in water, and body fat. There are many more possibilities, but here are some really quick examples. If you have more body fat and clothes on at the TOD, you're not going to cool as quickly. Immersion in cold water is also going to make you cool faster after the TOD. You get the idea. Again, I say this every episode, but forensic science is heavily based on common sense. Our next PMI change, livor mortis. I almost messed that up.
What up, primals?
Livor mortis is the settling of blood by gravitational forces. It causes a dark purplish blue discoloration of the skin where it is able to settle, and the areas where the blood wasn't able to settle will be blanched or pale. The pale areas of the skin are where the skin was pressed against a hard surface or an object preventing the blood to settle there. You know how if you push hard on your skin and then let go and it's pale for a second? That's the same thing happening here, but instead of going back to your regular flesh tone, it stays pale. So like if you press like that. Postmortem lividity may be evident as early as 20 minutes after death, or may become apparent after several hours. It depends on the conditions. The development of lividity is a gradual process that progressively becomes more pronounced. Not announced, I'm sorry, I'm so tired. Livor mortis is important because it shows you the final position that someone was in when they passed. Since it happens so quickly, it can show if the body was moved or adjusted post-mortem. The color of post-mortem lividity can also help determine the cause of death. For example, if your liver is blue or purplish, it's normal. If the color is pink or cherry red, it can indicate a lack of oxygen or way too much oxygen in the system or the environment. It depends. Finally, onto our last category, and the one you're probably most familiar with, rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis, girl! It was rigor mortis, girl!
Rigor mortis means post-mortem rigidity. I bet you didn't see that one coming. Following death, the muscles in your body relax. This is followed by increasing stiffness or rigidity of your muscles, which freezes the joints. This is known as rigor mortis. Afterwards, the rigidity gradually subsides and the body relaxes again. In temperate climates, under average conditions, rigor becomes apparent within half an hour to an hour. It increases progressively to a maximum within 12 hours and remains stiff for about 10 to 15 hours, and then progressively disappears within the following 12 hours. Rigor mortis develops and disappears at a similar rate in all muscles. Small muscles will become rigid before larger muscles just because there's less muscle mass. The reason we stiffen up like this post-mortem is because of the chemical processes that occur within the muscles in your body. When they cease functioning, your muscles lock up and go flaccid again as they start to decompose. I was like, my notes were a little messed up in that area, I'm sorry. Rigor mortis happens to your voluntary and involuntary muscles, so not only are your arms and legs and all that, like your biceps and stuff freezing up, but your heart and the muscles of your hair follicles in the skin, the ones that cause goosebumps or goose flesh, whatever you call it, are also going to seize up. So those are going to be showing. Ra, ra, Roma. So after these initial changes, what happens? You return to your roots. Literally. You return to the primordial sludge that we all emerged from. It's the of living. What happens when we decompose? That picture of Lee Michelle. I can't read tonight. Decomposition is the process that follows the arrest of biochemical processes which preserve the integrity of the cellular and subcellular membranes and organelles. Enzymes are released and bacteria and other microorganisms thrive on unprotected organic parts of the body. Yum yum! Two parallel processes of decomposition have been established. Autolysis, which is self-dissolution by body enzymes released from disintegrating cells, which is cells. Enzymes dissolving the body. And putrefaction, my favorite. Yum. When I say it's my favorite, I just mean it. I think it's very interesting. Disclaimer. I'm sorry. In putrefaction, decomposition changes produced by the action of bacteria and other organisms. As I mentioned before in one of my previous videos, putrefaction is one of my favorite processes to learn about, so let's get into it. As with all parts of decomposition and post-mortem changes, the putrefaction process depends heavily on the environment and state of health and the body size and all those factors. Changes that happen within hours in a warm climate may take days to develop in a cooler environment. The amount of exposure to the sun based on your final position or proximity to a source of heat like a stove or furnace are also really important. The gases that are produced during putrefaction are methane, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, hydrogen sulfide, mercaptans, which are organosulfur molecules composed of carbon, hydrogen, and sulfur that are known for having a pungent odor similar to rotten cabbage or garlic, and horribly smelling ammonia. My source really emphasized that it smells horrible. It's impossible to describe the scent of death to you, but according to these compounds, I'm going to say it would smell like a mix of rotten cabbage, garlic, cat pee, and rotten eggs. It's a lot of sulfur and sulfur compounds combined to make some really nasty smells. A general rule with putrefaction is 1 week in air equals 2 weeks in water or 8 weeks in soil. In a temperate climate, early decomposition becomes manifest within 24 to 30 hours with a greenish discoloration of the abdomen due to the denaturation of colonic bacteria. This is followed by gaseous bloating, dark greenish to purple discoloration of the face, and purging of decomposition fluids from the nose, mouth, and blisters. The tongue and the eyes tend to bulge because of gases behind the eyes. In this. As time progresses, the whole body bloats as the discoloration spreads to the chest and extremities, displaying a marbling pattern. The organs in the abdomen decompose faster than other organs due to the high amount of bacteria within them. This is really gross but interesting. I made specific notes about this because I thought it was really cool. The brain, okay, so this is how the brain decomposes, just the brain. The brain liquefies into a creamy gray substance and eventually disappears except for less than an ounce of inorganic crystals, resembling dried mud. So your existence is just going to be some little crystals someday. I brought you a gift. What is it? A crystal. Nothing more. Generally, after 3 days, the entire body will be bloated. The skin is going to get slippery and slide off. Notably, your hands and legs. When the skin comes off, it looks a lot like gloves or stockings, which is gross. Insect activity is also going to be happening along with this process, causing additional damage. After all your squishy bits are gone, you're a skeleton! Yes! Go on forever. A temperate climate under average conditions, the minimum period for full skeletonization is about 1.5 years. Once the body is fully skeletonized, it can take decades or centuries for the bones to fully decompose. There's a whole process with how bones decompose, and it ties in a lot with taphonomy, so I think I'm gonna do those together. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you liked this episode, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that bell button to have endless ringing in your ears forever and ever and ever and ever. Hit the bell button to be notified whenever I upload a new video, and follow me on all of my socials, which are listed below and on my profile, channel, whatever it's called. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Danny is offline.